So basically, you are a global company operating out of Bangalore, serving the global industry. Is that you're actually driving new age practices in life science and pharmaceuticals. What are the challenges these companies face?
Life science companies over the last decade or so have been going through some very fundamental changes, right? And there are multiple factors which have pretty much altering the way companies work. And let me just start with a few of them. One of them is this is an industry which was based on what you call the blockbuster model, right? Large patented products which are obviously making lots of money across the world, growing fast. Now, a lot of these patents started expiring and revenue started disappearing. In the past, before 10 years, probably 20 years back, obviously you will have new products coming in and falling in that, filling in the gap. Over the last 10 years or so, that has been less. And the reason it's been less, the gap filling has been less, because there has been a shift towards unmet medical needs in much more specialized areas like oncology, in orphan diseases, right? A lot of discovery, new product launches are happening in those areas. It's difficult to obviously have a $15 billion or a $10 billion product, or at least many of them in those areas. So from an era of blockbusters, those $5-10 billion products, you're moving to smaller products, right? Which obviously just alters the whole structural stuff for the industry. That's one change. The second big change has been how compliance is viewed across the world, right? Regulators, the whole public pressure around how life science industry is viewed has been increasing, right? In that context, regulators across the world have become much more stringent around compliance practices. Not only FDA, but across the world we see this change, right? And hence companies are getting very careful on how do they manage compliance, whether it's in the filings they're doing the clinical trials phase, managing their safety events, what kind of material are they putting out during promotion of their products, right? So that's been a big change. Over the last 5-7 years, companies would have paid fines in the order of $20 billion plus just for violation of compliance norms, right? That's one big other pressure, and we help companies deal with that. The other pressure which pharma industry or life science industry is facing is very similar to what other industry is facing. There's a shift towards a digital world, right? Pharma companies spend, or life science companies rather, spend close to $400 billion in just sales and marketing, reaching out to physicians to a great extent, to some extent patients, right? And obviously taking out their message about the drug, about the therapy area. Now, like any other consumers, doctors and patients are moving towards digital channel, right? And they want to pull information rather than actually having information pushed to them. And hence pharma companies are adapting to this new environment on one hand where consumers or their customers are becoming more digital in nature. On the other hand, there are other customer groups which are becoming more powerful. In the era of managed care pressures in developed markets where you have payers and governments asking more value for money around the drug.
It's much like Amazon, except that you're a business to business kind of a way where you are driving the back end so that it's a new age, just as
the whole personalization piece, the way Amazon does it with customers, right? Or a Netflix does it with customers. Same way, how do you build this whole personalization piece in pharma? And customer centricity or personalization, right?
And it's
so
precision
oriented. So pharma always again in the traditional world has been brand centric. Now how do you move from a brand centric world to a customer centric world?
That's very well put.
So that's the journey which we are helping them. The whole maturity model actually takes you from a brand centric world to a customer centric world. So there's huge amount of change management which is required internally.
Exactly, that's the point I was coming.
Yeah, it is huge work required. So obviously clients work with us over years.
That's very interesting. If I were to just picture this like let's say driving on a highway, it's like all along the blockbuster model was such that you were driving a Ferrari on a highway and all of a sudden you're heading towards a mountainous terrain where you need something like a Pajero. So it's like redesigning pharmaceutical marketing from a Ferrari model to a Pajero model.
If I have to just kind of structure how Indegene is adding value to this industry, right, I would actually put it in three broad buckets. The first bucket is this $400 billion spend which I spoke about is getting restructured in a big way, right? This $400 billion constitutes of sales and marketing. These are two different spends. There is a shift from sales dollars to more marketing dollars, right? And within those marketing dollars, you are shifting more towards digital, right? Because obviously that's how your consumers are changing.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, over time, also sales and marketing are working much more closely, right? So there is a digital way of doing things, and pharma companies are trying to move towards that, right? We are helping them navigate that change and move towards a more digital world, and I'll explain in a while at the next level of detail. That's one broad bucket. The second broad bucket, as explained earlier, is that there is a huge pressure on compliance. And compliance is in the filings you are doing earlier on. How do you manage your label? How do you manage your different regulators across the world? These are companies which are large pharma companies, have their products in more than 100 markets.
You mentioned artificial intelligence. Give us an example of how that is used.
Artificial intelligence is being used in many areas in our applications. Starting on the commercial side, Gaurav spoke about what is the best next interaction with a physician, right? That's actually based on artificial intelligence, right? That's one piece.
Now, I'm going to tempt you with a question on what does this mean? You know, the technologies are expanding and evolving even as we speak. So, I want you to tell me, Manish, what does all this mean for a doctor in the future? Let's say in the year 2025, based on the kind of roadmaps that you can see in technologies. On the one hand, the old medical reps have been replaced by a huge sophisticated content engine with multi-channel pushes. On the other hand, there is a front end where the medical rep who actually gets to go out on the field is a much more empowered super rep, as you call them.
Are reps going to disappear? No, right? Reps are going to be there, but they're going to be playing a different role. They'll be much more productive, right, over time, and their customer interaction will happen through many pull-driven channels rather than the push channels you have today, right? That's how we think this will evolve over the next few years. And Gaurav, you really
so the paradigm is shifting from push marketing to pull.
From a rep world to a rep-less world or a less rep world. I would say that 2020 could be a less rep world, and 2025 could be a rep-less, with what Manish is saying, that no role of a rep would have changed. So you don't need now, I think very few companies will be thinking of building armies, right? You don't need armies of people, right? You need a SWAT team, or you need a Navy SEAL, or you need these commandos, right? You 7 people can do what a 700 people can do, because they're smarter, they're empowered differently. So your reps will become those SWAT teams or those kind of things, which will finally evolve together. I think army era is gone. It's
so
completely gone.
Let's call you guys as the people who make digital age healthcare commandos happen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you,
Thank you.
Gaurav. It's
Thank
been
you,
great
man.
talking to you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
that.
so much.